But we're breaking a lot of principles too with some of that employment policy, I have to say, Warren, because, you know, when I started out in politics, we didn't find the Commonwealth government or the, you know, public sector funding pay increases in the private sector. Now, that is happening at a pace. These are people in aged care and in childcare centres who are privately employed, but they're getting their wages boosted by the taxpayer. Yet if you're running a small business and your staff are overdue for a pay rise, you know, Jim Chalmers isn't fixing it for you.
No, I mean, in terms of childcare, aged care, health, the private operators are being squeezed as we speak, as the government's up there pushing up wages of many of these workers. They're going to fund the public element, but there's a private element there. And of course, these private hospitals, these private aged care providers, these are critical and leading edge innovators in these industries, and we're squeezing them because of these policies. And that's just the start. I mean, it's a broader issue here. If you think about the 3/4 of the jobs that are being created in this country at the moment are being determined by a bureaucrat in Canberra, effectively. And it is not the market that is out there determining where the next bit of labour goes. And of course, that's why the productivity in this economy is so bad. And of course, I worry that eventually it just means the business community can't grow. And right now, we need businesses investing in all this new technology to deal with the labour shortages and to get our living standards moving forward. The government's not going to do that.
It looks like we might have another war amongst the states on the GST looming. I know what Scott Morrison was trying to do, ensure that poor old WA, who reforms its economy, who utilises and exploits its resources, is not propping up the other states who do none of that, you know, like Victoria and others. But the others on the eastern seaboard are not taking it lying down.
No. Well, WA's got a sweet deal. You know more about the problems of state-federal relations and the structure of our government. And of course, WA is an extremely volatile economy because it's a mining economy. And this deal essentially means that when they're under pressure, they get supported. But when they're doing well, they don't have to give as much back. The problem, I think, is really that Victoria is running itself into the ground, but we're going to end up supporting them the rest of the country through these sorts of arrangements. So we need a tax system review. We need the Ken Henry type review to get looked at seriously, because everything from this capital gains tax on super to the burden on income taxes, GST problem, it's broken. It's not fit for purpose for the future economy.
Couldn't agree more. And you don't do the stuff that they're doing now on this unrealised capital gains. I mean, the Treasurer was put under some pressure today. We know the politicians are getting a sweet deal out of this with their defined benefit schemes. He tried to say, no, that's just all media lies. Have a listen.
Can you confirm that the tax on $3 million superannuation funds will only apply to the Prime Minister once he leaves office, that he won't pay any extra tax on his superannuation until he leaves office under your legislative proposal?
I'm so pleased you asked me this question. Tax liabilities are deferred until the pension phase because members in those schemes can't access their super to pay tax debts until that point. It's a function of necessity that's how that calculation is made, but we charge an interest rate on those liabilities to make sure that people don't receive an inappropriate advantage.
Okay, but isn't that the whole issue with this bloody tax? It's all right for the politicians. They can put it off, pay a little bit of interest, pay the tax when they've got the money and they're poor. But that's the issue with the farmer. You know, if the farmer's not making any money, but they've got this land that on paper value is expensive and worth something and it's gone up in value, what are they supposed to do? Do they get to defer it, pay a bit of interest and pay it down the track when they've had a good season? No. They have to sell their land. This is the whole point, Jim Chalmers.
Yeah, and it's not just the farmer, it's anyone with an illiquid asset like a property, a house, something like that. I mean, what they're trying to do, of course, is just get these assets out of super and get rid of the beneficial tax treatment, because the super system is not delivering what was promised 30 years ago. It's too expensive and they need to tax that income. So they're basically just trying to create a tax incentive to, and they've said it, a number of the ministers or assistant ministers have said it, they're just trying to get people to get their super balances down below 3 million. And of course, therefore not getting the tax benefit, because we cannot afford it, because our tax system overall is not fit for purpose. And this isn't the last of it. We're going to see them looking for all sorts of new taxes, because the demands on government revenues are going to be huge as the costs of all these programs they've put in place balloon as this inflation keeps running through the economy.